Welcome back to Shockwaves, the official Stellar Shock After Show breakdown podcast. I'm Jess, and I'm joined today by the man himself, Arthur. Arthur, you ready to dig into Chapter 1, Demesne?
Always. This is where all the dirt under the nails gets real. We're finally out in Afirit. The work is just relentless. And Ser Sarrafin's day kicks everyone's ass, including his own.
Yeah, let's start there. I was sweating and picking splinters out of my palm just reading the opener. Ser, with that rusted hoe barely holding together, blisters piling up. You really wanted us to feel how old that tool was, or maybe how old all the work feels.
That's it. These people aren't playing at farming. They're not in a settler fantasy. They're scraping a living out with what they've got and what they can steal from the wild. Ser's not a romantic. He's not talking about loving the earth or finding meaning in a clean row. It's survival in its routine. Tuitoma is built on barely enough.
There's this moment where Ser is just standing there, breathing dust, watching grit stain his shirt, and he thinks the farm is watching him. Not like the land provides, but like, this patch will eat you if you stop moving. Why set it up like that?
Where Ser's from, the land outlasts you. It doesn't reward you. The tension is, you do the job, you don't always win. I grew up with people who spent their lives working jobs that just gave out blisters and not much else. I wanted readers hearing that kerchunk to feel every pass. You don't get medals, you don't get recognition. There's just work, and it doesn't care if you like it or not.
We get the other boys showing up, Lavu, Viti, Balu, these guys. They're supposed to be Ser's friends, but honestly, they're more like wolves circling the last himbone at first. There's ribbing, there's the old joke. How close are they really?
It's a rough friendship. These aren't sitcom buddies. They're a group held together by years of shared boredom, rivalry, and scraping by. Lavu's got charm and a family name. Viti's a troublemaker. Balu's muscle and more sensitive than he'll ever let slip. Ser's the odd man out, even with them. He works because no one else stays.
But they show up and help out with magic. Viti gets water pouring through the ditch. Balu's tossing logs with earth power. Lavu basically shows off. And Ser, no spark, no magic at all. I love how totally practical he is about that. He's not making a tragedy out of it.
Yeah, Ser's not chasing magic. He's just constantly reminded of what he doesn't have. That's classic rural kid jealousy. Everyone else gets a leg up. You get the job by default because you stick around. There's not a single line where he feels sorry for himself. He just figures out how to keep up or get around it.
And then there's Rolen, this little guy running in with his janky invention, out of breath, so much heart. Audience favorite already.
Rolen's big energy for a kid who doesn't get a lot of wins. He sees Ser and wants to help, brings that homegrown carrot catcher, which of course busts apart. Instead of laughing him out the room, Ser squats down in the dirt with him. That's all the mentorship you get out here. No speeches, just fixing what breaks.
That scene is so not sentimental, and it works. Rolen's hurt. Ser just says, "You'll get it next time. I'll use it every day." That's encouragement, but it isn't pumped full of hope or you can do anything, just try again.
If you've ever busted your ass on a farm or a job like this, you know you live in the maybe try again, praise is rare. But people remember who didn't kick them when something broke.
The reality you set for Tuitoma, it's all detail, all work. You get the smells, the sweat, the squabbling, the misery, but you don't dwell. How do you decide when to push a sensory detail and when to move on?
Real life's in moments. You don't stand and reflect when you're hungry and tired, but you notice things, the smell of wood pitch, the rot, the sound of water running right or wrong. You remember because it sticks. I write like that. Every sense is a beat. Scent, touch, sound. When Ser's eyes sting from sweat, you don't need a paragraph. One sentence, keep moving.
Tama, how do you build out this village? There are these tiny rules: where people sit, what chores get value, which rumor makes people's hands shake. Feels lived in.
I took pieces from my granddad's stories and places I lived in as a kid, small town stuff. You know who the gossips are. You know who fixes things and who waits to get called, the politics, the rules. They're all a mess unless you're inside the game. I needed the reader to feel like Ser's world doesn't pause so he can figure things out. He's not the center. He fights to stay on the edge.
There's a moment when Ser and Rolen are back at Ser's tiny hut. Ward hasn't come home yet. The whole scene is grounded. If you set this in a modern city, it'd be kitchen table realism, right? Instead, it's scraped floors, one lamp, river stones in a bowl. You get enough, not more.
Yeah, nothing wasted. These people don't have the luxury of clutter. Everything is a tool or a memory. Ward's boots lined up, old pelt, walking sticks. That's not set dressing, that's life. The table squats because someone fixed it badly last week. That's a real house. You want to know what kind of person lives there? You look at what they fix and what they tolerate broken.
The bean. Speaking of Ward, we finally meet him in the flesh. First line to Ser is, "You finished that irrigation, or did your magic friends fake it again?" Great intro.
Ward is every hard-assed who measures love in chores, never out of words, just out of patience. He's not unkind, he just doesn't believe feelings fix a damn thing. If you want kindness, you get it in the form of a new hoe handle, not a hug.
Which is what Ser gets, a promise of repairs in exchange for more work the next day. And Ward's bringing news. There's trouble on the river, trash that shouldn't be there, unfamiliar boats going the wrong way. It's all tension, no monsters, just a growing sense that the fence isn't holding anymore.
It's a warning sign. Sometimes trouble floats upriver, sometimes it rides in on legs. The people of Tuitoma have lived through raiders, drought, sickness. When Ward points out those scraps, it's not a call to panic, it's a call to tighten every routine. You don't talk fear, but you notice things, and check your extra padlock at night.
The whole first chapter is this grinding cycle. Field, home, field, council, home, always with the threat circling. But you get these pockets of humor and play, the boys' banter, the botched carrot puller, Roland's hope. Was that balance hard?
It has to be there. If it's just misery, nobody comes to dinner. Real people joke while hauling bodies out of a flood or scraping for the last cup of beans. Jokes, bets, dumb fights, small moments. The world can take everything except that impulse. In the worst patches, someone will make a game out of losing.
Let's talk about the council and the elders. Old men barking, old women counting, who's doing the work, young people shuffled along the outside. There's this undertone. You're not asked what you want in Tuitoma. You get handed a job and you do it. What's the appeal for a character like Ser?
For Say, it's stability, not comfort. He knows his job. He knows no one sees the Tomasi, the background kid. That's the arrangement. You get overlooked, but you get space to think, to watch. He doesn't have magic, but that means no one expects him to lead, to be the hero. He fits the shape of his work.
Do you see him growing into something bigger, or is he always going to orbit the edge?
Can't spoil that. It's a push and pull. Even in this chapter, there's hints. He wants more, maybe. He resents being overlooked, but it keeps him safe. We'll see which side wins.
There are all these chores, the fixing, the counting, the planning, where the wall needs mud, checking the rows for teeth marks, deciding who needs feeding and who's stealing seconds. Why so much? Most stories would boil this down and get to the plot.
Yeah, and then they'd lose the plot. In a place like Tuitoma, the routine keeps you alive. When the crisis comes, your first reaction is to finish your row, then run. There's no time skip to the meeting. If you skip the small work, you might as well set the tail on Mars with laser cows. I want readers to strain under that routine to get that the world doesn't pause for your character arc.
But then when those council meetings do happen, we get a burst. Rumors come in, travelers, possible war farther north, burned banners, vanished farms. For the villagers, is this just more noise, or do they really feel fear?
I think fear's always there. They don't say it out loud. They manage it with gossip, prepping the fence, arguing chores. Only kids like Rolen ask straight out. For everyone else, trouble is a word you only use when it's knocking right at the gate.
And Ryland's always watching. He's the first to ask, do you think the world will want what we grow? That song about the stranded guy, did he ever get rescued? He's the youngest, but also the one who carries the biggest questions.
That's why he matters. Kids see the shape of stuff before adults call it real. Roland's always coming at it sideways. Can his invention help? Sir, can the world make space for their fields, their version of home? He's the curiosity that the rest have to bury just to keep moving.
I noticed there aren't any explanations dropped in. No, as you know, Bob. No, the keepers are the magical rulers who blah, blah, blah. It's all implied, hinted. Why?
Because nobody in Tuitoma needs explanations. They know who the keepers are because they worry about them after dark, not because someone wrote a treatise. If I give the info, it's in dialogue, in rumors, in what kids overhear, or in what old women mutter about while baking bread. If you want exposition, go watch the parade in the Capitol. Here you get one chance to catch up.
And then there's the Traveler's Chorus and Jill Barden, coming with nothing, fleeing from trouble, knowing more than they'll say. Tuitoma welcomes them, but with a wary eye. You don't let your guard down for anyone.
It's self-preservation. There's a generosity to offer you a job, but you sleep outside the fence until people figure you out. The village is equal parts suspicion and practicality. If you eat, you work. If you cause trouble, you're trouble. The kid chorus is young, but he learns quick that safety's earned, not promised.
And the chapter closes just as loaded as it started. Only now the sense of trouble is everywhere. The newcomers with rumors, the kids realizing their games might turn serious. Ser holding on to Roland's luck charm like it might be more than a pebble. The whole place bracing for some pressure they can't define.
That's all you get in a good year. Maybe a charm, a new field, a patch on the wall, and the promise that if things go bad, you notice just fast enough to dig in or run. No heroics, just doing enough to make tomorrow daylight.
Not gonna lie, I read this and my back ached for an hour, the best possible way. Next week, we get chapter 2, where the world outside the fence comes calling.
If people thought chapter 1 was gritty, wait till they find out what happens when trouble actually walks up the lane.
You're not giving anything else up, are you?
Not a word. Come back ready.
All right, listeners, that's our time for Shockwaves. Go wash your hands, drink some water, patch your fences. We'll be back after the next earthquake with more dirt and more stories from Stellar Shock. Thanks, Arthur.
See you out in the field.
Thank you for listening to Shockwaves, the Stellar Shock Aftershow podcast. If you're enjoying the pod and wish to support us further, please consider joining our Patreon community at patreon.com/vertical. That's patreon.com/verticle. This episode of Shockwaves is a production of Vertical Media LLC, all rights reserved. Produced and edited by our talented team, the fabulous theme music was created exclusively for Shockwaves and is used with permission.